Episode 292. My sister forced me to do this. Lila smiled happily and nodded, satisfied with her answer. Sure enough, you have the same hobby as I do. I also like to train that injured lion. Unfortunately, I can't do it for the next few days. Carlito was slightly surprised and asked,
Miss, are you going on a business trip again?
Yes, I've been summoned by the management, so I have to go. I'm leaving tomorrow morning. Since I will be away for 3 days, you have to keep an eye on him. Don't let him escape on you like the last time. With a cold smile, Carlito said cruelly,
Then he must learn to enjoy his withdrawal symptoms. When he gets admitted to the drug rehab center, it will be worse.
Lila simply loved his expression. Smirking, she stepped inside. Carlito walked beside her and said,
I just gave him the drug, and now he's sleeping. A moment ago, he was jumping up and down, making me sick.
Turning on the light, she saw a figure laying inside. Noticing the noise, he impatiently turned over and then continued to sleep with a pillow on his face. Didn't I ask you to give him the drug on time? Lila seemed to be somewhat unhappy, her voice a bit low. Carlito looked a little embarrassed and said,
Miss, didn't you suggest giving me a holiday? Actually, how about letting me stay here for 3 days instead? Don't mind how I torture him, okay?
Lila smiled and asked, How do you want to mess with him? Seeing that she was really interested, Carlito looked exhilarated and said,
There are a million ways.
But soon he calmed himself down a little, cleared his throat, and bowed his head. The smile on Lila's face was even more splendid. She patted his shoulder and said, Leave him alive. It was not easy to keep him alive. You know what state we were in. Just look at my face.
Yes, I know what to do.
That's good. I'll leave him to you then, Lila said and soon turned away. Carlito glanced at the man on the bed and quickly turned off the lights. Then he relocked the door layer by layer and stood on guard. Jake got up from the bed, his pair of cold eyes sparkling with excitement. Away for 3 days? Before 8 o'clock on Saturday morning, Julianne rushed to Serena's room. She was still asleep. She took off her little sandals that she had just put on and crawled into her mother's bed, shouting, Mommy, 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 get up! Let's go to the amusement park today. Amusement park, Mommy, Mommy, Mommy. Serena had been sleeping soundly, but she was awakened by the little girl. She didn't move. When little Jules climbed onto her body, she suddenly reached out and grabbed her little shoulder, shouting, I caught you! Ah! Julianne screamed, but at the same time her lively laughter was contagious. Mommy monster, don't catch me! Help, brother! Serena held the little girl in her arms and looked fierce. I'm going to eat you! Your brother will not come save you. Oh, I'm gonna be eaten! Julianne tilted her head, pretending to be falling, but she quickly got up again, saying in a serious tone, Mom, you're too childish. Now I have played with you, you must take us to the amusement park. This was a special task that Grandpa had given her, and she had to complete it. Serena fell to the bed lazily, not wanting to move. Let Mommy sleep for a while, she's still sleepy. Julianne blinked and laid on top of her, putting her little head against her mother's chest. Let's sleep a little bit more then. Serena curled her lips and touched her small head, closing her eyes again. But in less than 2 minutes, the little girl got up. Mom, time is up. You can get up. Not yet. Another little bit. No, Mommy. You have to keep your promise. She reached out and pulled at her clothes, trying to lift her up, but Serena was lying still. The little girl's face was flushed, sitting on Serena's stomach and pouting. She then inserted 2 index fingers into her mother's nostrils and said, Get up! Serena laughed. After she grabbed the girl's hand, she turned around and patted her little ass. Asking for a beating, are you? Ah! Mommy's beating me! Help, brother! Jeremy looked over from outside, blinked and asked, Mom, are you ready? Coming. Serena yawned and pushed Julianne aside, wiping her hands with a wet tissue. Mom will go brush your teeth and wash your face. Did you two have breakfast?
Yes,
Julianne bragged.
we're just waiting for Mommy. My mommy is a big lazy bug.
Serena pinched her nose before she got out of bed and walked into the bathroom. Inside the bathroom on the wash basin, the things that Jake could use were still placed in their original spot. Because they had not been used for a long time, they looked a bit old. Serena glanced at that and took her own cup, saying to the toiletries, "Good morning, Mr. Robinson." After washing, she opened the door and found that the room had been made into a mess. Jeremy covered his head and body with a blanket, standing on the bed looking down at Julianne, who was kneeling down.
Do you know what you did wrong? Do you know what you did wrong?
Julianne was pretending to be in tears and she groaned.
I know I made a mistake. Please forgive me, Your Majesty. I will not dare.
Seth stood on one side with his hands up and his head lowered slightly. When seeing Serena come out, Jeremy immediately put the blanket down. He sat on the bed and said,
It's my sister who forced me to do this. No, it's my brother who wants to be the emperor.
Seth stood on one side and shrank in Jeremy's direction. Serena was mortified and said, Go out! The three little kids disappeared immediately, and Jeremy's shoes were still under the bed. Serena felt helpless and shouted, Jeremy, shoes! He immediately opened the door and ran in, lifted the shoes and ran away again. At the door, he thought of something and said,
You need to wear the same clothes as us.
Serena smiled, locked the door, and found a pair of blue trousers and a black and white striped loose t-shirt, the most classic match. She put her hair up into a simple bun, put on a pair of white flats, and went out. Looking like a high school student, Emma said as she brought out the breakfast, looking at Serena. You look like the children's sister, instead of their mother.